comes to numbers, which he will wow you with later. Uh, it is his superpower for sure.
Thank you so much, Mary. I'm flattered.
You should be. Um, we're happy to have Thomas. I know that we've rotated that position a bit, but it is the person that comes in and assists with the TRP and helps with all of our data analysis. So we're happy to have Thomas with us. Today, as all of you received the agenda, we're going to review the annual report and some of the cool things that we served up to Arizona Department of Environmental Quality. We are required to do an annual report every year in September, where we pull together all the highlights and we talk about all the activities. ADEQ is the funder for this program. So like in any situation, if you are receiving funding, you are required to do reports, which we do every month. And then annually, we sum up all of the efforts and also look at what was our impact on both vehicle miles traveled, vehicle miles saved, impact to air quality, things like that. So we'll go over that, and then I'll turn it over to Thomas, and he has looked at some of the trends and some of the changes in some of our metrics, and he'll share that with you. And then Brad Alice will join us. Brad works in our PEMA Association of Governments Communications team. He is the one that sends out the newsletter every quarter. He handles all of our social media. And when he shared some information with the group back in June, there was a request made that were there any short videos that we can also have available to our TCs, so that when we're sharing out information, we are also able to do a quick video that allows someone to understand what is TRP, what are the requirements. So he'll have a whiteboard video is what it's called. He put one together. So hearing the call or listening to what it is that people want, he was able to develop one of those. And it's pretty cool. They use a piece of software where they write a script and then it creates it. We're seeing a lot of that now, both in social media and in training, that the short little 15-second or 20-second video is how people are getting their information. So, and for everybody who's attending, we always capture who is attending and we log that as in kind. The TRP program as a part of PAG, we are an in-kind golden goose. In fact, back this past year, we generated 190,000 in in-kind. In-kind is used for federal match. A lot of the federal dollars that go through our agency require a match, and we're able to use these dollars that are generated by the hours invested by all of TRP and all of our survey takers to match against those federal dollars. Next slide. All right, the TRP annual report. Every year, I have the pleasure of going through and trying to remember what we've done in the last 12 months. The one thing about TRP is we have operated with the same amount of resources for over 13 years, and we've looked for different ways to be innovative and work with our program developers, which manage our online resource. That's how we collect all of our surveys. It is linked up with RidePro, which is offered by TripSpark. That is our CRM. That's how we keep all of the company information. And so Peter Krozak and Ashley Alofs, who are our developer team, they are the wizards behind the curtain. They help us with any technical issues that we come across. They are the ones that we work with to create different ways to save time and make things more simple. So without further ado, put on your seatbelts, because we're going to just bury you with a lot of numbers, because that is a lot of doing. We look at the performance, and we always measure against last year. So for listening to these types of numbers, one thing I want to make a specific point of is we track our survey data by January through December. And that's important because the historic data that we have is always compared against last year. Well, last year is January through December. And when we work with all of you, we always say you have to complete your survey, even if you change your month within that period. For our reporting, we do report July through June because that's the fiscal year, that's the state fiscal year, that is how our funding is received. So it's a little strange, but in terms of survey data, these numbers are from January to December of 2023. So when I talk about resources and what it takes to pull off this program, it seems minor, but I like to point out with, because we track everything every month, that with 1.16 FTEs, we manage this whole program. We receive about 266,000 from ADEQ every year, and it takes developer time, it takes my time, it takes Thomas's time. All these different people have a role in making sure that we deliver on the contract we have with ADEQ. And to say it's a person and a little bit, and we pull off everything we do, it's something we're very proud of. So moving on, we currently right now in November, we have completed about half of our surveys for the year. We completed 81 of 159 sites. And I'm happy to say that the engagement for a lot of the sites that we has been much better. Certainly 2 people that are calling, trying to find out what's changed and if TCs are new or if somebody's been replaced. That's an ongoing cycle. But we're seeing that the efforts of our labor are yielding good results. So let's go over 2023. So in 2023, a lot of things happened, and it changed the paradigm that we were operating on. We touched on this in June. We used to have a model where we wanted as many sites as possible, and that became to where we were above 150. I think we were at 100 or 256. So we went through an effort of compressing our sites and moving to a multi-site model. So for those who have multiple sites, when you're talking about Target, Fry's, Raytheon, all these different employers that had multiple addresses, a lot of our school districts contributed a great deal for us to be able to expand the reach of this program. And at the same time, we were able to reach greater numbers of employees. So the new bar for us to achieve is to increase the total number of employees in the program. So we currently have 159 sites. So that was a significant reduction from that 256. But at the same time, we were at 135,000, those specific numbers Thomas is going to share with you. And now we are pushing like 148. We did drop 2,466 total employees in this past year, but we did so because there were 5 different sites that we lost. We lost Honeywell, Arizona Children's Association, Davis Select Advisors, and also our large Sears call center dropped. And we're going to try and make up for that loss, but as people compress and reevaluate their workforce in a post-COVID world, we've seen some employers that have lost their bricks and mortar locations. In the sense of Arizona Children's, they had sold off a complete division, so they went from 130 employees down to 41. So there's different reasons, but we also are geared up and in a position now we're going to really aggressively recruit for new employers. Another thing that is a celebration of the progress we made last year is that when we talk about the multi-site compression, where we went and listed every single address, whether it's for a Target, a Fry's, a Safeway, Pima County also does this. It also improved our geocoding success. So when we look at where the data points of individuals who are responding to the TRP survey, we are at an 87% success rate for geocoding, which prior to doing all of this, we were not in the 80% range. So as of the beginning of October, in communicating with our developer partners, they ran a test and the number was 87%. So we are getting more data from more individuals at a greater accuracy. So big celebration for that. That's an important thing to note, because all of the data that we collect informs the transportation and community planning that our modeling staff, or our data science, we call them data science now. They take all that information and incorporate it into the models that then translate into our projects. So another number, we are required to do 2 training sessions, and we do those in the spring. In this past spring, we had 51 attendees in 2 sessions. And when you're looking at the number of sites that we have, and certainly there's always that turnover, that was pretty significant. That was, I believe that was really good attendance. We also did 8 virtual orientations. I'm seeing a name on the screen. Ed Marsh is with Carondelet, and he immediately got an email this morning and has decided to attend. He is an example of somebody retired, and now he is going to be taking over this role. So we'll be doing one of those virtual sessions with him. In doing those one-on-ones and providing TC training every spring, it allows people to understand the why of the program. It's so hard to get excited about something if you don't understand it. And when many of you are doing a survey once a year, depending on what your role is in your organization, we want to be able to provide information that it's something that comes to mind every month, and you're able to share information out with those who are commuting to your work sites. Also, they can share that information with their families. Because, for example, All Public Transit, which is another program that Thomas and I are involved in, it's all free right now. So whether it's Dial-A-Ride or Fixed Route, sharing that information with friends and family that need to move about the region, they may not be aware of that. So it's sharing that information out through your employees so everybody's well informed. Another success in this past year that we highlighted in our annual report is the launch of the TRP tracker. Since all of you are TCs, when you receive the reminder when you're in full survey mode, on Tuesdays, we include that link in the reminder. And that means that at any time you're able to click on that link and log in. You use your email as the TC and the code, the passcode for your survey, and you're able to monitor how your site is doing. And that is also useful and applicable to the multi-sites. So when you're one TC and you have 5, 10, 15 different sites, it allows you to see who has what response rate. And so you can apply the encouragement where needed. Again, our developer staff are the ones that came up with that, and it made it easy. So if somebody can't sleep at 2 in the morning and they want to see how their TRP survey is doing, they are able to do that. Another launch in this past year, and it's taken a bit of time because our developer staff also work for the rest of the agency, and Thomas is going to go into this as well, is as we look at how we onboard new employers and what is necessary for us to get them launched as a new site. We have a new employer information form that is now all electronic. It allows us to reach out to somebody, capture their information, and Thomas is going to walk through that process. For a long time, we were doing this as a printed PDF, so we needed to join the 21st century and get electronic. There's a lot of steps involved in being able to make that real, because we have to write the introduction emails, and then what happens once they submit the information and how do they confirm. So all that wizardry behind the curtain had to happen, and we'll be rolling that out soon. Another point we like to share when we're doing our annual review is we look at, okay, what is the composition of our TRP employer population? And when you look at Tucson, and this is just a reality, that many of our companies are based somewhere else, or their home office is somewhere else, or maybe it's in Phoenix. So when we look at large employers that meet the criteria for TRP, oftentimes TRP we don't have the greatest number of 100 or more employers here. But the thing to note is the top 20 employers in TRP, they make up 67% of our total population. So that's pretty significant. When we have the impact of a large employer that moves to the area, you can look at their total employee population and it really can drive our numbers. So for example, the top 20 employers in our region account for 95,984 employees. So that's a big deal. Davis-Monthan is one of those. Raytheon that is surveying this month, they are 13,000. The U of A is another almost 14,000. So when we're looking at expanding the program, we're looking for where are the opportunities. And I had shared with the inclusion of these multi-site expansion locations, our school districts really have been a shot in the arm for us. So we were able to expand both for those like the Marana School District, Vail School District, Amphi, where before, when they were only representing, say, 600 to 700 people, like when we went to a multi-site format with Amphi, we, in an instant, were able to add 1,889 employees. The same is true with Marana. We are in conversation with Legacy Schools right now.
Yep.
So they have all these different locations, and by including all of those employees, then we can again continue to grow our program. And if you want to know more about the top 20 employees, it's on page 5 of the annual report, which is posted on our website. So our current annual report was it was loaded up Friday or just recently. So if any of the information I'm sharing this morning is of curiosity to you, or you want to know if you're on the list, then you can look at that, and it's a quick link from the TDM page. So if you went to pagregion.com and you look at the TRP program, it'll take you to a direct link. One of the other things that as part of our effort is we track every month and we communicate with all of our TCs, and we will do everything to try and help a site stay in compliance with the ordinance. There is both a county and a city ordinance. And when we exhaust every possible situation offering extension, we do have to issue a letter of non-compliance. PAG is not an enforcement agency. However, we are required, after trying all possibilities, to see movement and get these different sites into compliance. We did issue 11 non-compliant letters in this past year. If people respond, we can get them back into compliance, but in doing so, we reach out to them, and we also explain that, you know, you're going to have to be set up for next year to do this. So I share that because when we convene again in June, when we have these employers that are missing data for a year, that can have an impact on our numbers. So we do all of this activity all year long. We gather all this information and we summarize. So one of the things that we focus on, and sort of the impetus of the program to begin with over 24 years ago, was that we're tracking vehicle miles traveled. Vehicle miles traveled, are we able to get people to share the ride, take alternative modes? And so as part of the different metrics that we do track, we look at vehicle miles traveled, and that's per individual who is responding to our survey. So interesting, in our past year, VMT increased 8 miles. That was interesting. It was single occupancy vehicles increased 1.7%. We can interpret that in a lot of different ways. Are people going back to the office? Are they driving outside of their regular commutes? Telework decreased 1.3%. We also saw during the pandemic that we were all sent home and we're all teleworking, and that forever changed the way we work. We're seeing that is going down. And then when we look at compressed work week was a 0.91% change. So in some instances, we saw some movement where people are either working 410s or they're working longer days, less number of days. So we're seeing some fluctuation. It's not big swings, but we are seeing that those that are required to either come to the office or they're reducing the number of days that they're in the office. It'll be interesting to see going forward what that looks like. We've seen a lot of media attention where there's mandates or there's a proposed shift that we might see in the future. As we say, the numbers don't lie. So it'll be in this next year if we see a change. One thing that was interesting is one-way miles went up 2.01. So there is, with the less number of days in the office, are we seeing people are willing to travel further? They're selecting where they live, potentially further away from where they work. Again, page 9 of the annual report, if you want to know more, we have a whole slew. It's a table that speaks to all of the different numbers over a 5-year period. We want to keep you here only for an hour today, so we're not going to go over all of them. So, also, one of the partnerships we have is with our air quality administrator. Dustin Fitzpatrick is our partner in this program, and he is the one that will calculate all the different pollutants, and he has a relationship with ADEQ as well. And when we look on TRP miles traveled, and then we also look at region, within the region, all the miles that are traveled. TRP makes up 1.18 of all miles traveled in the region. So when we look at all the employers that we have, which we're going to grow and add to our list, that's considered a significant amount. So it seems small, but it is a significant amount. And then when we look at, they do an evaluation of the MVD registered vehicles. They take out all the trailers that don't have a motor, and they sort through all the data, and they run what's called the MOVES model. It's the EPA model. And as a result, it is a factor that we multiply times our vehicle miles saved. That's how we report to ADEQ. There was a significant jump in 2022 from 80 to 101.2. And then this past year, the new factor is 104.4. Now, what does that say? That number that continues to rise means that the fleet itself is becoming more efficient. There are more EV vehicles. There are emission standards that are put on different vehicles based on the year that they were built. There's a whole lot of factors that go into the EPA MOVES model. So we are seeing an increase, which is a positive thing. It helps protect our regional air quality. So we saw a significant bump from 22 to 23, and then we see 3 factors go up just in 1 year. So that's a plus. That's a good thing in terms of air quality. For all the numbers that we pulled together and calculations, one thing that you can take away from this meeting as something you now know is the TRP program saved 841,162 pounds of pollution. So by all the efforts that were put forth for all of our TRP sites, that's a huge number that we're able to be very proud of that we offset. And that is pollution that's not going into our regional air. So if you want to see all the numbers, or if you would like to see what the number would be if we had 100% participation in TRP, that is on page 20 of the annual report. So with that, I'm going to ask if there's any questions, and then I will be turning it over to Thomas. Not seeing any hands. All right, so Thomas Robertson, take it away and show us all the trends that you have come up with.
Absolutely. And good morning, everyone. Thank you all for having me here today. Oh, and now it's full screen. Okay.
Now,
So
are
let's
you
see
able to
here if I
share?
can share my screen kindly. Okay. So as we can see here, we have some simple stats from the prior years for the TRP survey. And there's one thing I want y'all to gather from this, and that's the shift that we've seen the past few years post-COVID. With COVID, we had a lot of remote work, a lot of companies moving their entire workforce from being in person to a remote workforce, which is something unique that we haven't seen before. And in these coming years, we've seen that solo occupancy trips have increased over the past few years from what they were from, 2020 COVID times. There has been an emergent return to office movement. Many employers within Pima County have begun requiring their employees start coming back to the office, working in person. Such examples can include any of our defense industries, such as Raytheon. They're having a large return to office movement for a lot of their employees. What this is doing is requiring people to now drive that didn't have to drive before. People who may have chosen their living residence because these larger companies were offering fully remote work, but are now driving much longer distances than they would normally be comfortable with due to this return to office movements. You can see it reflected over the past 4 years as total recorded annual miles saved has been decreasing as well as the solo occupancy rate increasing. And if I can explain those stats real quick, the solo occupancy trips, that's any trip where an individual is driving just their self to their place of employment. This does not include carpooling or any form of alt mode such as walking, biking, or public transportation. This value is calculated based off the surveys that are sent out to all of our employers. Their employees fill it out, which includes the crossroads of their address. It takes the mileage from those crossroads to the location of employment and then based it, calculates it based on whether they walk, drive, or bike. And if they use any alt mode, is then attributed to saved miles, which is shown here in the total recorded annual miles saved, which is then used to calculate how many tons of waste is saved per year. And as you can see, as more people are driving themselves to work, not working from home, not biking, walking, or any other forms, or carpooling, for example, the amount of waste saved has been steadily decreasing from year to year. This is also represented in the fact that our number of employees has been changing over the years. As we have more employees, there's more chance for respondents, therefore more information that we can gather showing that Pima County residents and employees are using these alt modes that then save waste put into the air by driving yourself to work. I think one major takeaway from this is that we're only showing for the past year 134,000 employees. There's significantly more employees in Pima County than 134,000, and that's why myself and Mary, we're making it a very strong effort to pull in more larger corporations, more larger employers within Pima County that may not already be participating. And that's a major point that you yourself can take in. Let's say you as an employer, you're aware that a business partner or anyone else who works in your same industry has a large number of employees and doesn't actively participate or maybe new in the scene in Tucson. It's a wonderful opportunity to introduce them to us and let us set them up with a survey to where their employees can be registered in the travel reduction plan, allowing us to further promote clean air within Tucson, as well as promote the fact that alternative transportation, at least for public transit, is free in Tucson. A lot of people here simply are just not aware that public transit down here is currently entirely compensated by the city. And that fact can change a lot of people's view on transit. If you're taking the bus, it makes a big difference if it's free versus having to drive to work every day, especially if the route is easily available. So I think two main takeaways from this is that it's excessively important that we have more employees taking the survey so we can have a better look of solo occupancy trips of the region, of how many people are driving themselves to work, how many people are utilizing alternative transportation, as well as the fact that there's such a large impact between employers allowing their employees to work from home, having that remote work employer setup versus requiring them to be in the office, especially on a grand scale and the impact it has on air quality and the amount of pollutants that are being put into the air by solo occupancy trips that we see increasing from year to year that could be caused by a trend of return to work. And I think that covers it in terms of the data. Mary, would you like me to go over our new process for bringing in employers?
I was gonna ask, are you able to make your screen any bigger?
Oh, more than happily.
Yeah, some of those.
Mhm. So I have a giant monitor. Okay,
That might be better for people to be able to see. Yeah. And it also there's a variability in the total number of employers, but we explained by doing the compression.
exactly. And just to briefly touch on it, this last line, this is the partial data, at least for our fiscal year for 24 to 25. And for our fiscal year, we're about halfway through. And as you can see, we're progressing quite well, same amount of employers. However, we're more than half of what we had for employees. So we're projecting to have an increase of employees by the end of our fiscal year as we calculate on that, as well as respondents and total recorded annual miles saved. So what this means is that there is at least good signs that we should have an improvement in terms of total respondents and employees by the end of our fiscal year, which will then be translated into the regular year for 2024.
And I'm gonna throw another number for people to be aware of. So it won't be ready probably until springtime, but in 2019, we had a map of all of our TRP employers. We had a conversation with our GIS staff to get that map updated. And when you think of a map and all the data points on it, when we translated that into the number of addresses we have now versus what we had before, because we had in the neighborhood of 220 before in 2019. The number of addresses we have now is in the neighborhood of 800. So to give you sort of a correlation of data points that we're tracking VMT from and everything, that's a significant increase. So that's what's contributed to the accuracy also with our geocoding.
Of course, and one other major point I can touch upon with that in mind, Mary, that map, as an employer, that map is provided to you to where all your employees fill it out, provide their address, and you can see, let's say you're an employer of 2,000 employees, and you have 600 employees that live within the same same 2, 3 square miles. And let's say there's public transit routes that go across there. You have employees are saying they're having difficulties getting to work and they're simply unaware of public transit. And in terms of what bus routes run in Tucson, what's available to them for free to help them get to work on time. And with that in mind, are there any questions regarding this data before I move on to our new employer registration form?
Seeing none.
I
The other
see none.
thing is, let me
Wonderful.
point out, Thomas, also because you have 2 or 3 miles and potential use for transit, there is also when you have employees who might benefit from a longer commute. We have a van pool program. We have subsidies. The subsidies are also on our website. We are currently contracted with Commute with Enterprise. We'll be finalizing an RFP process in the very near term. But anybody who both as an employer, or if you know of someone that has a group of employees that wants to explore the option for van pool, we can meet them on site, we can do virtual meetings, and it's the subsidy as defined by the IRS that is available to those who want to use that commuter benefit. So a quick phone call or just to reach out by email, we can provide all kinds of information about that as well.
Absolutely. So with that, let's start talking about our new registration form. As Mary touched on earlier, we used to depend on PDF to have a new employer registered within our software. Now we have upgraded to a much more sleek version to where we can reach out to an employer, set up an introductory login for them, and then give them a link that brings them to a new registration page where they will use the email that we sent the email to them, like their own email, to start this process of registering for the TRP. We made this with the goal of making it as a painless a process as possible. We received complaints from previous employers that they were unable to navigate the PDF. Certain parts of the PDF were unfillable, it just being a general pain, and that barrier of entry with potentially keeping employers from wanting to finish the process or actively going along with it when sent that introductory email. So what this page looks like, you're going to enter the email here, your own email that you were sent the email to. And following suit, a simple questionnaire appears asking for site company name, industry, basic information regarding your company and or organization. And essentially fill it out, a quick 5-minute process at most. This would typically be handled by the travel coordinator position, which is typically a position within HR. Most of our companies or organizations have their head of HR or person directly below them take on the travel coordinator role, with someone else working in HR taking on the backup position, that backup position being there solely for the purpose if the TC is unavailable, either taking PTO or other such reasons that they would not be in office, so that we're not starting from square one, having to re-explain the entire process. And at the end of it, one other portion that we added was the ability to select your preference for a preferred month. Typically, this was communicated back and forth with staff, but here you can select your preference and second preference for a month. This can be slightly contingent based on how many other companies are picking the same month. We're trying not to front load all companies into the same month, but instead have it spread out throughout the year to allow and ease performance throughout our calendar year. And I think that covers our new process. We really created it with the aim to make it as simple, sleek, and as quick a process as possible. Take up less time of your HR staff to where they can focus on their work while still supporting the travel reduction program, and you as an organization still able to support clean air in Tucson and Pima County.
Excellent. Thanks,
Are there
Tom.
any are there any questions on the new form? Comments, concerns?
This also, our data collection, when people fill out and provide us information, it makes it so the accuracy of what we're collecting from them, because we have both sentence case and required fields, because for some reason, when we provide individuals with forms, sometimes they're 100% filled out, sometimes they're not. So they also receive an email when it's done, so they know they've completed that step. And then we book a orientation with them so that they understand what the deliverables of the TRP are. So,
Oh, and one last point to touch on, if as you can see on the bottom, we did also add the ability to save your questionnaire. Partway through, we received complaints from both TCs and employees stating that they would halfway fill out the survey, have to go get another point of information from someone else, or they were missing some information. And by the time they came back, either the window was closed, the session timed out, and they would then have to refill it. Now with the ability to save the questionnaire, you can save your place in it, get that information, work on a different task, and then come back to it without having to start from scratch.
excellent. All through the magic
Of
of our
course.
development staff. Hallelujah.
Of course, I think that's all I got, Mary. Anything else you'd like me to touch upon?
Nope, that's it. I think now we get to
Wonderful.
hear from Brad. Brad is going to show us the whiz bang video and some of our TC toolkit information. All of you as TCs should have received an email if it went through your spam filters and all of that, that we had launched our TC toolkit. We updated a lot of our collateral, and then, as I mentioned earlier, the whiteboard video. So Brad, I saw you on here. Are you available?
I am.
There he is. All right, excellent. Take it away.
What I'm not seeing is the ability to show my screen. Maybe I'm just missing it.
It's the green one.
There we
It
go.
eluded me for a second too.
I had to expand it. So we will start with this. So real quick, as Mary mentioned, the TC Toolkit, hopefully you were seeing my screen. It has been updated. It is live. We continue to tweak it as we get feedback.
Brad, we don't have your screen up.
You don't have my screen.
Try again.
I'll try it again. Let's see if that worked.
Whoa, now we're cooking with gas.
Okay, so it's on our website. It's easily to find. And as we said, we continuously play with it as we have the ability. This little top part should have the things you need most, whether it is the program overview, the QR code flyers, the recognition levels, email templates. And then as you scroll down, and as you know, I'm an old newspaper guy, so I always call it below the fold. You don't always see things. But here are all the articles we have that are tips for the TCs. These are just mostly for you all. Down below, we have emails. These are the pre-written emails that you can just tweak to use for your organization based upon kind of the needs of your employees. So if you're trying to get them to take the survey or participate, if air quality is important to them, you would use those. If saving money, those health benefits, if you have a very health-driven organization. Then they'll also take you to other things, such as posters and flyers and videos. Now, this does not include the videos that we are going to talk about today, but some little things you could put in newsletters if you have a digital newsletter. Everything from why you should carpool to the hawk crossings if you have a lot of pedestrians, bike boulevards, which is kind of a cool way to get, especially around Midtown Tucson, while avoiding major intersections. So let me go back here.
I'm going to comment the pre-written emails for everybody who is with us today. Oftentimes, especially if I get copied on a communication about the survey, we notice that some people it's lost in translation. So what we did is we pre-write the email. This is not like the one that was attached when you get your information for the survey. It is actually focused on the different topics. So it's easily copied, you put in your own company name, and it talks either about cost savings, air quality, health and fitness. It has different topics because each of those topics can be very sticky for a certain population. It's not a one size fits all.
Now, hopefully you are seeing the TRP whiteboard video. To let you know, based upon your suggestions in the last meeting, Mary and I and the rest of the communication staff kind of powwowed. We came up with a few ideas for videos. Since this one was created, this was just kind of testing out the software. We have decided to break it down. We're going to create 3 separate videos. One is the program overview. One is a program requirements video, and then the environmental impact. The first 2 are simply easier, or another way for those of you who are visual and audio learners. to get a quick, or especially for new TCs, overview of the program. The environmental impact could be flexible, used both for the organization and for the TCs. But I'll play this. We've already decided we don't like this style, so hopefully if I can get everything to work, I can show you a sneak preview of the actual whiteboard style. But let me see if this is working here.
And how many seconds is it?
They're going to be about 45 seconds. This one's a minute, and we've already trimmed it down and rewritten the script. But this will give you a brief feel for the style video, which still has a playful. It's going to be a little less playful than this one, but we think it's better than if it was just a text-driven video or a lot of like dry B-roll footage, as we like to say. So here we go.
All right. Does it have sound?
Are you not getting sound?
I'm not getting sound.
Oh, if you're trying to share it, instead of sharing your screen, if you share the actual application, the sound should go through.
Okay, then we're gonna
There-
try.
There's also a share screen option in Zoom that says sound that you have to check when you do the share. So you might want to unshare and then share again and make sure that that sound button is checked.
Thanks,
Okay,
Mom.
let me try that. So here, what I'll do is I'll actually show you the new style of video, which is going to be the whiteboard, as Mary said. You should be seeing it. I did check that. I'm going to also optimize video for sharing, and hopefully this works.
We're still seeing the original one that's paused.
Okay.
Was area employers with the resource Pima Association of Governments Travel Reduction Program, or TRP, was created to provide area employers with the resources and tools to road. Pima Association of Governments Travel Reduction Program, or TRP, was created to provide area employers with the resources and tools to encourage employees to ride share or use other modes of transportation to reduce the number of vehicles on the road.
Did that work at all? I apologize. I'm toggling between both
Halfway
things.
through, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's showing you the whiteboard style. Obviously, it'll be longer. It'll be about 45 seconds. Let me unshare my screen now. Share. And again, each one will be between about 45 and 50 seconds. We've already scripted them out. It's just a matter of now putting them together. As I try to learn the Animaker program a little bit. It's a little bit different than I'm used to for video production. But we hope to start rolling those out probably early in January to have the 3 finished products. Maybe sooner if all goes well. But just again, another tool to help you guys do your jobs, help especially newer people come into the TC role and kind of hit the ground running. Hopefully between that, the articles, the TC toolkit, it's just another way of kind of simplifying things. As we understand that depending on the size of the organization, it can be a little bit daunting. As always, we love getting feedback. If you give it to Mary or Thomas, they can pass it on to me. But yeah, it's an ever evolving, and we're trying to, at the end of the day, between the newsletters, these videos, the TC toolkit, it's for you all. It's for you guys to do that TC role more effectively, and again, hopefully it saves some time and reduces the impact that it has on your day.
Yes. Thank you, Brad. Yeah, we apologize that things aren't in final form. There's another effort within our agency called RTA Next that is the primary focus of time and effort. So we're trying to get his attention when we can. We all know what that's like. I think everybody can have empathy for somehow it's Halloween and then you blink your eyes twice and it's Christmas. So it's a mad dash to the end of the year and everybody is pushing to try and get everything done before the holidays. So that is on our horizon. If you have feedback, I think it's really exciting that we talked about this in June at the TRP task force meeting. And while it's not completed, we are headed in that direction. So sometimes things take a little bit longer than we hope. So on that note, look at that, 10:54. We are right on time. Does anybody have any thoughts, comments, or anything they would like to share for the order? And before we do a wrap. No. I see one. I saw movement. Did somebody unmute? No. All right. Well, I really appreciate you spending a portion of your morning on this Monday. We will call this done and wish everybody a happy holidays. Be safe. Stay warm. I know some of you, like Thomas, are not actually in Tucson. I think it's colder where you are. But wishing you all the best. Please give feedback if you have thoughts, ideas. And I hope that all of you, from the numbers that we shared today, can be very happy and proud of the progress we're making, because it takes all of you to make this happen, and all of the efforts to engage your staff and help them understand what's available to them in terms of their commute, in terms of their options, and the fact that in our region we have free public transportation, we have van pool. We aren't New York City and we're not Austin, Texas, but we are Tucson, and we're fighting very hard to protect our air quality and make sure this is a great place to live, work, and play. So on that, it's 10:56. We will call it and wish you a wonderful week. Thank you.
Nicely done.
Thank
Happy
you so much.
holidays.
Thank you,
Of
Tom.
course.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.